Hello everybody, I'm Richard Gon of Work to Live podcast version. So this time, what I'm going to talk about is an education or educational stuff, which is a topic of this episode. And this time, I frequently digress in the course of the recording of each episode. I have been concerned about such many digressions. So which is why recently, not recently, in the past or in a moment in the past, I began to tell the listeners of my podcast the title and not the podcast but the title and the conclusion of each episode. So which is why even in this time, I'm going to tell you the title and the conclusion of this episode. And the title is "Competition of Evacuating My Country Has Begun," I think. And the conclusion of this episode is it may be a great business plan to establish or found schools for teaching local kids English in a long view. So why I created this episode is not recently. So in the near future, there is an administrator of schools which is going to found some schools in my country, and my country is a developed country in East Asia. Maybe I think most of you know the name of that country. I'm sorry for my bad manners or my clumsy manner of speaking English, and that is because I'm a non-native speaker of English language. That developed country I live in is a country whose name begins with J. In the case of the developed country in Korean Peninsula, that country has the name as Republic of Korea, and my country is a neighbor country of that country, South Korea. Anyway, this time, coming back to the track of this episode, there is an administrator of schools which is going to establish or found some schools in my country, and the name of that administrator is Harrow School, and I got that information from the news in my country, and of course that news was broadcast in Japanese language, and I haven't known that there is such a school which is really traditional, or that Harrow School is a posh school, isn't it? I haven't heard of that, the name of that school. So, but actually, have I heard of that? Have I ever heard of that? I wonder that, but actually, so lacking my own brains, I couldn't remember the name of that school anyway. But actually, in this time, there's an administrator of schools named Harrow School, which is going to found some schools in my country, and the locations of those schools are in countryside. In the countryside of my country. Anyway, why I began to why I found that event remarkable is recently, to start with, this country is a declining country, which means it's like this country is like using a metaphorical expression. This country is a kind of this country is a kind of a founding ship or sinking ship. So thinking about such a situation. Thinking about the fact that this country has a lower birth rate or lower fertility rate compared with other countries, or compared with other developed countries. For example, those developed countries in Western European countries. So thinking about which establishing or founding schools can be a downside for the administrators of schools. But actually, you know, so in your way, so it can be a beneficial business for the administrators of schools or the managers of schools. And so why I began to think about such a thing is, so the reason is, I'm sorry for my bad explanation, but actually, thinking about the situation and thinking about what I have just said in the section of title. So evacuating people, not evacuating people, or evacuating this country and taking people away from this country to, for example, in this case, Harrow School is a British post school, isn't it? So which is why it can be a beneficial business for Great Britain or for United Kingdom, or in favor of the wealth of United Kingdom in a long view, to take Japanese people away from this country. So I'm sorry for my complicated explanation, but actually this school, the schools Harrow School is Harrow School is going to establish boarding schools, which means those not that country, but those schools have dormitories. So in which students are cramped, or in which students have to stay for whole days, or for some durations. Students have to stay days and nights, or day and night in those dormitories, or in the premises of those schools. So thinking about which, it's a kind of a brainwashing. I'm sorry, So L and R are not distinguished in my mother tongue. So anyway, it's a kind of a brainwashing educational system. So it's a kind of a brainwashing discipline systems, which I think is going to be applied to those schools Harrow School is going to establish. So anyway, so thinking about which, in the far future, so maybe that school, Harrow School, or those schools are going to take people away from this country. And so so I was talking about the far future, but actually I'm going to talk about the far future of this, how should I say, of this business scheme. So so in this, so until this time, so I have talked about that. There's an administrator of schools, and which is named Harrow School, and which established, or which opened, or which decided to found some schools in my country, and which is what I have talked about in this section, but actually, or in this part of this episode. And so I think this is, of course, this is my speculation, or this is my expectation, and this is my guesswork, and so this is my guesswork, but actually, so I think in the far future, Harrow School plans to, or Harrow School has a plan to take people, or train the local people of this country away from this country, and take those local people into United Kingdom, which I think is the future plan, or futuristic plan of this Harrow School, or of this administrator of those schools which are going to be established in this country in the near future, actually. So anyway, but actually, so let me come back to the track of this episode, and maybe I have talked about stories along the track, but actually, so in this part, I'd like to come back to the title of this episode. So in the beginning of this episode, I said that so the competition of evacuating my country has begun, I think, which is what I said in the beginning of this episode. But actually, so I use evacuating or evacuation in the title of this episode, but or in the column of this title. In the column of title actually, so but actually, so the mean what I'm going to tell you is the meaning of evacuating or evacuation. So I used the word evacuation or evacuating, but actually, so that is not to say that the local people of this country are rushing to leave my country, or so which means so if I use evacuation, or if people use, or even if you use the word evacuation or to evacuate, so that has an implication, or that has an, so how should I say, so not the inspiration, but actually that word has a nuance that people are leaving away from some dangerous places, or people are leaving some dangerous places, or some places having accidents, or having really, for example, having really harsh events, for example, wars actually. So there's a Russo-Ukrainian war in Ukraine actually. So people have evacuated Donbas area, for example. So which means why I began to talk about Russo-Ukrainian war is that so when people use the word evacuate or evacuation, so people have such images, or people have such understanding, or people have such pictures in their own minds. So but actually, so in the case of this evacuation, so this evacuation doesn't mean that so Japanese people are trying to run away from this country, but actually so in this case the evacuation is maybe so urged by the schools which are going to be established, or which are going to be founded by an administrator, or by a British administrator of those schools, which is named Harrow School. So which is what I'm talking about by using the word evacuating. And another word is, there is another word I have to add some explanation, and the word is competition. So why I used competition is that so if you are, for example, what I have assumed is that so if you are administrators of some, or if you are on the positions of, or if you are on some managerial positions of schools, for example, so there are many types of schools, or there are many brands of schools, or there are many schools having different brands from Harrow School, and in my country there is a famous school named Kaisei Junior High School, or Kaisei High School, and Kaisei. So why that brand of school is famous is, so the students from Kaisei, or the students learning or studying in Kaisei Junior High School and Kaisei High School are thought to be smart. So which is why, so Kaisei High School or Kaisei Junior High School are really famous in my country. Anyway, so like which there are many administrators of schools, and but so which is why, so if you are one of the people who are on the positions of administrating schools, or who are on the managerial positions of schools, so founding or creating schools in my countries can be beneficial, or can be a beneficial business, which I think is a better explanation for this case. And so I'm sorry for the sound of blaring siren. So anyway, I think that is the sound of siren, of maybe ambulance. Ambulance is passing away near here. So anyway, maybe you can hear the sound of siren. Anyway, so like which, as I have told you, competition has such a meaning, which means so if you are thinking about not administrating, but opening or founding some schools in my country, that can be that can be a beneficial business. That is because, so, I think this is one of the remarkable features of Japanese people. But actually, so, as I have told you, I'm a Japanese person, and my country, I live in Japan, and so this is, I think this is one of the remarkable features of Japanese people as a whole. But actually, maybe most of you know that, Japanese people are said to be smart. But actually, it's true. To start with, Asian people are good at studying, and moreover, so, Japanese people are, how should I say? Japanese people are moderately gullible, which I think is a better description for a feature of Japanese people, which means, so, they are not so good at calculating for when they buy some goods, or when they buy some services, or when they pay money for some goods or for services. So, most Japanese people are not so good at calculating whether, the qualities of those goods or those services are equivalent to the prices, or, they are not so good at thinking about the balances between the qualities and the prices of those goods or services. So, Japanese people are not so good at, this service has this price, which is too expensive, or which is too cheap. Japanese people, and this price can be really reasonable, thinking about the qualities of these goods and these goods and those services, which is a field Japanese people are not so good at handling or thinking of. So, thinking about which, so, so if you, for example, the most listeners of my podcast are American people. So if you are an American administrator of some brands of schools, for example, so, it can be a better idea to establish some schools in my country and evacuate people, not evacuate people, or evacuate this country, taking the local people away from this country, which I think is so the image, or the picture of that better business scheme is that it might be good to drain some kids, or drain some young people from this country, which is what I'm saying is a better business plan, or better business scheme. So which is what I'm talking about. So before actually ending this episode, let me come back to the title and the conclusion of this episode. So the title is "Competition of Evacuating My Country Has Begun," I think, and the conclusion is it may be a great business plan to establish or found schools for teaching local kids English in a long view. So, so education is a kind of is an investment, or a business. In which you have to think in long views, or in a long view. So, so I'm sorry for my clumsy description, but actually, so, for example, creating websites, or creating some electronics can be businesses of short terms, which means you can easily get benefits, but for short durations of time, by creating electronics, or by creating websites, for example. But actually, so, to retrieve, or to collect or to harvest the benefits of education, or education, for example. So, that requires such collections of benefits, or profits from education take a long time. So which is why, so, I think education is a business of long time, or long view, or education is a business scheme. requiring people to think about the business in long views, which is also what I'd like you to know this time. So that's it. Thank you very much for your listening. And so before actually ending, so if you are confused with my description, this time I couldn't speak English well. So if you'd like to get some information without my audible explanation, please take a look at the description column of this episode so that you can read the title and the conclusion of this episode. And in some episodes other than this one, so you can take or you can read some information or some pieces of information as a conclusion. And because I often write some pieces of information other than the title and the conclusion in each episode in the description column of each episode. So please take a look at the description column of this episode if you can't understand what I said, because I have a bad pronunciation of English language. So that's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.